From the time that I can remember, my earliest childhood memories, my mother said, "You have important work to do in life. You have a gift to bring the world." And when I was younger, I was very inspired by that. I thought, wow, I am special. I have something so important to give the world that I am here. And by my 20s, that became total pressure. A couple of times a year, I would look at myself in the mirror and think, am I giving the world the gift that my mother says from the moment I was born, she knew I was here to give? Into my 30s, well entrenched into my corporate career, I knew that I wasn't. And by the time I hit 40, I had a total midlife crisis. And rather than getting on a Harley, leaving my family, and driving across the country, I quit my job. I was good at corporate life, really good at corporate life. I was so good that I never showed up as me. I had a supervisor very early in my career who said, "Kyra, your performance is amazing, but I have no idea who you are." And that stuck with me. And so in my 40s, I left the food industry. I was never in HR, never in OD, never in talent, never in learning. I did marketing and sales and promotions. I led people. And I left everything to try to address that wanting that I knew that I had and the opportunity that I heard from managers that I worked with to be able to be real at work. And it was a hard journey. For 5 years, I launched my business right before the recession. For 5 years, I toiled all by myself, taking more and more money out of my home equity line of credit until a dark day in late 2008 when I was in the grocery store with a cart brimming with groceries and Christmas presents for my kids. My card was declined. I left the cart of groceries at that grocery store, and I have never returned to that grocery store since. My kids still had presents, but I realized that that's how committed I was to being able to help every working person live a better life. It was my personal mission to help as many people as I could in the time that I could to be able to have a successful corporate career, to be able to drive the business forward profitably and with amazing performance. And that it's a zero-sum game to think that we have to do that and sacrifice our health. So in 2014, after Teresa had joined me and we had spent many years, many lean years, we decided we were feeling burned out and stressed out, and we went and took a retreat. We'd had a good year, and we wanted to reward ourselves, and we had no idea what would happen. So in 2014, we went to a resort, and we spent the week exploring ourselves. It was expensive. It's not possible for everybody to do it. And it was a wonderful contrast from having left my grocery cart in a grocery store full of groceries to where we were able to go to this resort and learn about ourselves. On the last day, we woke up. We had to leave before the sun rose. We got in the car. We were sad that we had to leave and go back to our lives. And on the way to the airport, driving from Tucson, Arizona, there are mountains on either side of us, and the sun rose. And right about the time that beautiful sunrise we were seeing, Teresa and I turned to each other and we said, the challenge for us going forward is how do we lead a business with heart? How do we do that? So I thought I was on a path. In 2014, we started to build out what is now Refocus. We've been working on this for 3 years, many false starts, and a health crisis of my own last year finally brought it into focus. Finally brought it into an understanding now of how to help people be able to lead and live with their well-being, organized and prioritized at the same level of career performance, being an amazing person at home, being an amazing person for yourself, so that when each one of us looks in the mirror, we know that the gift that each one of us has to share is being fully shared, and that we're living that life. I started out as a workaholic. I've been a workaholic most of my life. And just like other addicts, I'm still recovering. But this is how I feel today. So last year, I had a health crisis. I was told that my vocal cords were bleeding, and I was no longer able to speak unless I had surgery. So I went in August 18th, I went into the hospital, and I had surgery. And for 3 weeks, I couldn't speak. This is what I do for a living. And I couldn't speak. And I had to ask for help. I had to be vulnerable. We had to go to clients, and we had to reorganize all of the work that we had for 2 months so that I could recover, so that I could transform myself from a workaholic into a reflective, happy, fulfilled human. About halfway through that 3 weeks of silence, I went off to Utah by myself without the ability to speak. And I got onto the airplane, and this song popped into my head. And I thought, I am going into the mystic. I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea where I'm headed. I use my head for work. I don't use my heart. And I thought, all right, I'm ready for an adventure. And when I came back 5 days later, I had transformed. So now I'm reflective. Now I'm quiet. Sometimes I find myself sitting like at our team dinner last night thinking, I used to be the life of the party. I used to have all this frenetic energy that I thought would impress all of you. And what I learned was that I needed to be vulnerable. And I needed to help all of you be vulnerable. And we all need to go into the mystic. So at the end of my 5 days of total silence, I broke my silence at a park, at a state park, in front of this beautiful lake. I was at a picnic table. I spread out big pieces of graph paper. I had pencils and pens, and I stared at my graph paper. And I thought, what on earth am I doing? And I watched the sunset, and I thought, I can transform my life. And over the course of about 2 hours, the sun wasn't setting until toward the end of it, I played a girl pop playlist on Spotify. I would start to dance, and I made my courage map. This is my real courage map. You can see it's traveled with me a little bit. And I looked at, for me, what were all of the aspects of my life where if I were courageous, if I danced in front of a whole room full of people, what would I be? Who could I transform into? And what could I become? My rascal self, my feminine self, my nurture self, my work legacy self, my loving partner self, and my mother self. And around each one of these circles, as this music was playing and I danced, and I was completely alone. It was a weeknight. No one was at the public park. I transformed. I drew a map of my transformation of my new life. And in 6 months, it's amazing how many of these things have already happened. And the courage that it took even to stand there and dance and listen to this music all by myself as a woman in a strange place, not able to speak. I danced and I transformed my life. That's my wish for you and for the people in your organization. And I just want to thank you for being here today. Thanks.